versus, there are other local schools too, by the way, that accepted different levels of it, but Robert Morris accepts, well, you'll talk about that. But in Juniata has had a program before, and it's actually really inventive and really interesting as far as what they offer IB kids. And what I wanted this for was to be very, I don't know, to be very practical as far as what IB offers your kids. Mike and I talked earlier about a lot of sort of hoity-toity concepts as far as what IB gives your kids as far as their, you know, thought processes and stuff like that. But for me, one of the saddest things that I see every year are kids that apply to schools that are first really expensive, and they're taking majors that they're probably not going to get a job in, and you know, they're going to have to go to grad school for something else, and they're just, I don't think they're thinking through it very well. So this session should hopefully answer your questions about what the IB diploma does offer as far as schools go, and the reps are going to talk about what their schools in particularly offer. And I really want to push these schools for you guys to at least look at them. And I told the kids this year, please, this summer, the juniors, when you're looking at schools, go to Robert Morris, go to Juniata, go to Point. I mean, these aren't, maybe they're not schools you were necessarily thinking about, but they are offering you accelerated status for this diploma. So put it to work for you. Like, you know, do something intelligent with it, because and I am probably the best example of it, because I am sort of a money idiot. I have no concept of money whatsoever. Like, really no concept of money whatsoever. It's really embarrassing. It's like really embarrassing. Like last year when I was doing all this research about what college costs, I called my parents up and said, like, hey, thanks a lot. I had no idea. You're like, you're a big idiot. Yeah, of course you're welcome. But and I graduated from Pitt undergrad in 2000, and in just over 10 years, Pitt has more than doubled in cost. And I don't know what else in life doubles in cost in 10 years. So I really think that this is something to apply for you guys, and I really hope you you know, take advantage of it and look into it, and tell your friends too about what these schools are offering for IB students. So would you guys like to introduce yourselves, or how do you want to go here? Do you want to do a rock, paper, scissors to who goes first? Or
yeah,
what?
you
Okay,
can go first.
All right, okay.
Sure, so my name is Jessica McGrady, and I am an admission counselor and the multicultural coordinator for the enrollment office at Juniata College. Some of you, maybe most of you in the room, might not have heard of us, and that's okay. We are a little, like around 3 hours from here. We're directly south of where Penn State's main campus is, to kind of give you an idea. And we are a small private liberal arts school. We only have about 1,600 students, and we do give sophomore standing to any student coming in with an IB diploma.
When I went out to Juniata last year, I went out with the German kids for German Day. You know, I'd heard of Juniata before, and I had no idea what to expect. It's actually a very beautiful, close-knit campus, which really, really impressed me a lot, and I think the kids were really impressed a lot, because some of the kids that went last year, they're juniors this year. I think we have 4 kids applying to Juniata next year, and they're very interested in using their IB diploma and applying it there. Could you also tell them about the other interesting thing with the this is
which thing?
The travel abroad thing?
Oh, sure.
Is it in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we are in Pennsylvania.
So it's a promise school too. Okay. So not only would you get the sophomore status, you'd get the promise money as well. Which to me, like I said, it's a lot of the schools that were contacting us were out-of-state schools, and to me, the debate was, what do you push for kids? Do you tell kids to go to this out-of-state school that gives you sophomore status, and probably the cost wasn't really balancing out. Mm-hmm. So that's why I asked you know, a lot of local and state schools to please get involved. So, you know, so you could apply your promise money, your sophomore status, all this other stuff too, to really make it work for you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. You a university or college?
We're a college.
And what's the tuition?
Okay, overall cost. I like to preface with that. With
they
tuition,
usually rub their hands together.
Because tuition is just the cost to attend class. So everything with tuition, room and board, we include the cost of study abroad here. That's something that's integrated in,
yeah,
which is nice.
That's crazy.
That's a big deal, seriously. And then also the cost of a meal plan is included here. So the only thing that's not included are a student's books, because they really vary. The overall cost is about $45,000 a year. It's a lot of money. I know that you're like, okay, you can leave now. We give out a lot of scholarship money. I can honestly say to you, I've never seen somebody paying that much. If they were, we probably wouldn't have anybody quite seriously. And you'll see that with all private schools. We are competing with state schools, and so we have to give competitive financial aid packages. And I can tell you that we seek out and find IB students because it's sort of like finding gold for us, truly. And there aren't a ton of schools in Pennsylvania with IB programs, and so I mean, I flew to the Texas-Mexico border with, to find IB students earlier this fall. So having them here a little bit closer is really, really great.
Yeah, and please understand, like Mr. Rodriguez said, last year we had a guy from Tulsa, we had a guy from SUNY Binghamton, we had the University of Tampa canceled last minute. She got screwed up with her flight. She actually came the next day, and I took her out to dinner. It was really sad. That's how important I think schools look at the IB diploma and into what it's really worth. And I really, like I said, hope that you guys take that back. Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One for you and then one for you. For you mentioned that students can go abroad for what major?
All of them.
And is it on campus? Do you have it on campus, or will they be living with some? I did this before,
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
I know about when your child goes out of the country.
Yeah.
And the nervousness you have. So if that student comes, my child, and what procedure will take place for them to go abroad? Do you guarantee room and board, or do they have to live with somebody else? Will they be responsible for transferring themselves from one point to the next, or will you transfer them? There's a lot of things. Going abroad, it sounds nice, but you start.
No, you have to ask questions. You're absolutely
pulling
right.
out your hair.
So any student can study abroad here, and you don't have to be fluent in a different language. We offer kind of a mix of classes that are taught in one of our world languages that we offer, and classes that are taught in English to sort of open the door for more students. It's very different to take a class in a different language that's not like a language course, right, than it is to be able to function and go out and order food and get directions, right? So any program can study abroad. The only year a student cannot go abroad at Juniata is freshman year. After that, the door is pretty wide open. And over the course of 4 years, or 3 if they come in, and as a sophomore or through an accelerated program, about half of our students choose to study abroad. And transferring credit back in is very, very simple. These are all programs that we specifically have designed. They are run through us. They're not in a partnership with a travel abroad company or a bigger university. We have a database on our website that current students can access, where they can go through and investigate different study abroad locations and actually see a list of courses that Juniata students have previously taken there and exactly what credit they got for that when they came back. So you can choose your location, choose your schedule, know what credit you're getting before you even leave. And in terms of living situations, it depends on where they're going. If they're going to somewhere that's more like a metropolitan area, which most of our locations are, they will be living at whatever university it is that we partner with. We partner with 41 different universities. Do not ask me to list them. There are a lot of them. But for some of them in more rural areas, they may live with a host family. But again, they know that and they can choose a site depending on what the type of experience they're looking for.
Yeah, we have a kid going to Morocco this summer, and he's staying with like a family. He knows nothing about them, and my worry would always be that like I'm some crusty old dude that wants to like garden for him or something. Go cut my grass.
Right.
So that'd be what I got. Right, make my dinner.
Because you do a background check on the host family.
Absolutely, and we do have contact people at each of the locations. Like I said, it's kind of like a dating process. Before we establish a site, we regularly send Juniata representatives there to investigate, to sit in on courses, to talk with administrative representatives from the university. And so it's a pretty prolonged process. And again, with the host families, there's a lot of just like background check and screening that goes into that process.
Now for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
You mentioned about these other schools coming over here that are IB affiliate. My question is, they're coming here to woo our clients who are IB.
Yes.
Will the IB, the promised money be able to be applied towards that, or
No way.
what type
I
of
fought for that
system?
for 3 years. The answer is no way, because here's how the promise looks at the promise. The promise is $10,000 a year guaranteed to college. There's no guarantee they're gonna pass the IB exam. My argument to them was there's no guarantee they're gonna get through freshman year of college either, okay? But they're looking at that in sort of narrow terms, that they wanted to say it went to college. That's what I said. I said, give me $800 and I'll get them a freshman year of college, and then you could give them $15,000 or something a year instead. That didn't work so well. I had a whole bunch of different scenarios. I even dressed up in different outfits and stuff at other different times, brought gifts, didn't work. So I tried. Okay.
One more question.
Go ahead, I'm
and
ready.
I'll let y'all the IB exam.
Yes.
That the kids will be
Yeah.
taking who choose to
Yeah.
take it. Do they have, are the IB exams somewhat similar to the SAT or the ACTs, or how are these?
Not like it at all. IB is all about writing, okay? And that's the big difference. And I think that's why schools are also attracted to IB kids, because to me, to be able to do well on an IB test means a lot more than being able to do well on an AP test. And that's kind of what we have to get the kids in practice of. And that's why I really like the NYP program as well, because I think kids are so used to bubble sheets and stuff like that. We don't have bubble sheets. Like, you know, when I get my exams and I get a stack of paper this high for the kids to write their answers on, even for math. The math IB tests are not answer 50 questions. It's here's a theorem, or here's a problem. Answer the problem and explain how and why you did it this way. If you're wrong, if your answer is wrong, explain why it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's much different, and I think that I think that's good, because I really think that the whole bubble thing really stinks. You know? Yeah.
Can I ask Brian that? You as a teacher.
Yeah.
If a child does all
Yeah.
sort of,
Yeah.
can you feel whether or not that child would be able to pass that test?
Here's what we're doing next year, okay? Because this was my first year taking kids' money, all right? I'm not taking money from kids anymore. If you're going to sit your kid down if they're going to take an IB exam, I want you to come in. We're going to speak very honestly about your kid, okay? We're going to use some past experiences to discuss your kid. Because I don't want to waste anyone's money, because kids have sometimes a very inflated opinion of self too. I'm great.
Right.
Not really. All right. So, and it's one of those things too, is that, okay, a lot of people had a problem with the idea of opening up the IB school for everybody, because like I said before, it was this very elitist sort of program that only certain kids did. I believe every kid in this school could get 5s or above in certain courses. Will they get 5s or above in certain courses? It's up to them, and that's the whole thing. And they do really well on parts of it, but if on the parts that are external work and stuff, they don't do well on it. It's not because they can't, it's just because they don't. Like, when I was a teenage boy, would I have done well in this program? Heck no. Like, could I have done well in it? Absolutely. But would I have done well in it? No way. I had a job, I was fixing up my car, I was playing sports, doing stupid things. So you know what I'm saying? And so I don't have an answer for you, but yeah, whenever you come in and whenever it's like, listen, what do you think? I want your kid there too. What do you think? Oh, Mom, I'll do it, I swear. And then because this year the first kids that turned in money, I was like, oh my God. You're just like, oh, I have a nightmare coming this year. What's that? No, we're not doing mock tests. Like I said, we're just going to look at grades. We're going to, just about work ethic. Like, okay, do you really think that your kid's going to go off and do this independent work? Because it's independent work. There's none, honest to God, other than me sitting down and doing this for them, there's not even any really scaffolding and stuff you can do at a certain point. It's basically, you got to do it. Just go do it. And so that's the thing, all right? And I'm going to be real honest with people in the future about it, because I just don't want to see people blow money. And here's the thing too, with everybody being in it, this is something I didn't get to say in the first session, the lowest performing kids that came in their junior year, I'm not talking kids that it was a struggle for them to write a paper. The most proud that I've ever been of a kid is this year. She has come so far in these last 2 years. Now, would she do well on an IB exam? Probably not. But you know what? She has just It's amazing what she's done, okay? And to me, that's the happiest I've ever been, instead of taking a kid that's pretty darn with it to begin with. Like some of the kids that aren't doing well this year in IB, they're just bums, all right? They're really smart, they're just lazy. That's what I said, like, cut me a break, man. Okay, I'm sorry, a little tangent there. Okay, go ahead.
How many kids are sitting for the exam this year?
This year 25, next year no clue. Brandy's class is much stronger, out of 100. Next year's out of 100.
So is that like the average?
That's a lot.
Statistic
That's a
for
lot.
that?
No, it's a lot.
That's kind of high.
Yeah. At Shenley, the highest we ever had get diplomas, and this was a crazy number. This was actually in the top 5% world. We had 32 kids get diplomas 1 year. Okay. The next year we had 5. You know, and it just depends on the kids that year. So yeah.
Here's being a practical person
Sure, be
myself.
practical.
This
I like
is what I want to
practicality.
know.
Go ahead.
I want to know, when my kid starts 9th grade next year,
Yeah.
are they assigned to a counselor, and how do we make a plan?
Okay.
Because my kid, if you tell him,
Sure.
you have to do all this work,
Sure.
he's going to look at me and go, Mom, you've
Okay,
got to
so-
be kidding me.
Right.
But if I can show him the light at the end of the tunnel,
Sure.
if I can show him the money and have a plan,
Sure.
then I will kick his ass down the
I
road till he
appreciate
gets to
that.
that plan. So I'm just saying.
Sure.
What is the plan?
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. With everything that's going on in the district, I can't even tell you like what counseling situation we're gonna have next year. Bring him in and talk to me. Okay, we'll sit down together. I mean, I won't slap him for you, but I can. I'll give you I'll give you a heads up each time I want him smacked. Okay. But you know, and that's the thing too. Like to me. The advanced classes I took in high school were never very practical. There was never any application to them. And I think if you show kids what the practical application is, I think it makes more sense as well. Okay?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, I was told, I went to the science workshop earlier, and they told me there's AP classes, there's CAS classes, there's IB
Okay.
classes.
Okay, this is
I'm lost.
okay.
So where do we start?
Okay,
Like,
you
where's
start.
step A?
Here's what you start with. You should definitely make an appointment to see Ms. Martin, counselor. Okay. What you're going to find out is that there is a CAS track, which this year the CAS track has changed. The CAS track now, you used to have to take an IQ test to get into it. Now, if you can either take the IQ test or you can write a paper to get into it, or a series of papers to get into it. Okay. Those are separate courses. Okay. Not like there's separate science, it's just a different science class. It's a CAS science class, or CAS history class, okay? Then when you get in 11th and 12th grade, the whole CAS thing drops because it's straight up IB-BP. There's no distinction when you get to that point because it's either IB or it's not IB. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no levels, it's just IB. So that's the difference, and like I said, AP, we offer a couple AP courses in 10th grade. I'm trying to get rid of that because that's stupid. That's not what we do. That's not what we should do. The curriculums don't match up at all. The district 10 years ago said, why don't you guys teach AP courses? And we were like, well, what are you talking about? We teach IB courses. And they're like, oh, teach AP. So we ended up with a couple weird AP courses that make no sense whatsoever. So forget AP. Forget that. Okay?
Because in order for me to make the choice to go to Juliana
Sure.
or Point Park or anywhere else, I have to get my kid there first.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's something that you know, we can talk about that.
Okay.
We can
So,
talk about it.
so if we make if each of us decides that we want to kick this can down the road a
Yeah.
little bit, and we make an appointment, it's Miss Martin.
Ms. Martin,
Okay.
and map it out, like have her map it out for you, like, yo, listen, this is what we want to do, okay? I'm sorry, I want to get to Robert Morris here, and just so you guys know, this is one of the things I was like the happiest with last year, was getting Robert Morris on board. Yeah.
I'm an alum now.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm not an alum now, but I want to say to your practical question, it's like anything else. My son is finishing his 9th grade here on this IB track, and between my wife and I, it's like anything else. You have to really take your kid, know their own personal situation, and adapt and map that to
Right.
whatever the school's curriculum are. And just meeting with Miss Martin, and I don't know the lady from a can of paint, but just meeting folks in those positions, you still have to make sure it's you coming to the school and speaking like me. My wife, we're always up here. We're always engaged with all my kids' teachers every couple of weeks. We want to know, where is he at? What's he doing? What's his grades? Every
Yeah,
couple
and
of weeks. So
that's-
that's a
and-
lot of work on the parents' end
Sure.
as well. So you can talk to Ms. Martin. I think that's a great suggestion. I don't know her, but that's what you have to do, you know, is just to kick their butts to get this, because it's a great investment. And when I went to college a long time ago in New England, the IB program was widely known. And I went to a school that's considered a top school in the nation, and one of the first people I met was a kid who was part of the royal household of the Jordan family, the people that run the country Jordan. I said, I'm from Pittsburgh. I thought he was going to say the Steelers or something like that. Like it wasn't. The first thing he said, well, looked at me and said, Shinley High School. And it's like, why do you know Shinley High School? And he said, IB, Shinley, and the royal family of Jordan, all their kids go through the IB programs. So that was and I said, oh, I wasn't in it. You know, I had friends that were in Shinley back then, but you know, that's a proud thing. So and again, it's a good program. It'll help all of our kids if you're lucky enough to get it. But I appreciate your candidness. It's also about yourselves as parents and because parents think their kids are the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I have no
and then some folks, you know, some kids think they're the greatest thing, but it's in that medium, and everybody has to have that honest discussion of whether you can get through it, or will, you know, everybody can get through it, but will you get through it?
Will you do it? Like this year, and it's all about time management stuff like that. If your kid sucks at time management, think about think about taking a couple exams, what they're best at. And that's the thing too, like this year, like some of the parents now that are saying like, well, what? Like the kid doesn't, you know, like for real, he had C's last year in every class. What were you thinking? Like, you know, I was like, what's wrong with you? Okay, but anyway, Robert Morris this year. Last year I went to a bunch of local schools, and let me just say that Robert Morris isn't the only one that agreed to accept IB kids for sophomore status. Other ones you can ask me about later. I was much less impressed with the process that we went through. I had to go through a pretty lengthy process at Robert Morris to get them to match up all of our courses to have our kids be accepted. She has them to be accepted as sophomores as well at Robert Morris. And to me, Robert Morris is a very up-and-coming local institution. You know, they're Division I sports, they're a bunch of different things. But it's very nice to have a local partner involved. And it's the same with Point Park, they're not here. But to me, it was like the first school that I would, not other than Junior had yes too, but I'm just saying that the other schools I got, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know how much success we're going to have with getting kids to go to those schools, simply because, you know, Pitt told me thank you for coming and talk to you later. CMU, they didn't even tell me thank you for coming. Duquesne, we were very close, and then Duquesne, I don't know what happened to Duquesne. But Robert and Penn, for schools like Pitt, Penn State, and Temple, there's no incentive for them to do it because there aren't enough kids that apply there. There's so many kids that apply there. So these schools, there's a reason that they're doing it. And go ahead and tell them about Robert Morris. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I knew nothing about IB before this week. I had the kind of candid training with our Dean of Admissions, and it's just a wonderful opportunity. You know, it comes down to the dollars, you know, as a portion of it. But just the future that you're provided with through having this challenge already through your life. I mean, walking in as a freshman student in college, you had mentioned in the last session, you're writing a 4,000-page paper. What? You know, and I'm in the
4,000 word.
Sorry. Sorry.
I have to read them all. I almost just collapsed right there.
Rewind, 4,000 word paper. You know, you're in the writing center. These students have already gone through this, so amazing. We gave a little bit of the breakdown if you were in the last session, but yearly cost at Robert Morris without any aid, as she had mentioned, room, board, tuition fees, you're looking at about $34,000 a year. So by starting as a sophomore,
let me do the math. $34,000.
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, whether it's the full diploma and coming in as a sophomore status, or choosing, you know, I'm really strong in math, I'm really strong in science, going to try for those two subjects. That's the potential of 6, if not more, credits transferring in, kind of getting that jump start on college. At Robert Morris, we offer what's called an integrated master's program. Obviously, very, very long term, but for a traditional student, in 5 years, they come out with their undergraduate and their master's degree. So by starting as a sophomore, you could do that in 4 years, whereas the traditional student has to do it in 5. So there's a lot of
And
A lot of pros.
I'm gonna throw out another Robert Morris thing that we kind of worked out. I don't know if you know about this or not, but they actually have a very good actuarial science program as well.
Yes.
Did you want to tell them about that opportunity, which is, I think, insane? Go ahead.
We are considered what's called a Center for Excellence for Actuary. The starting salary as an actuary is amazing.
Yeah, it's
It's
great.
a very niche area. It's the math behind the insurance industry, all the big corporations.
How many people can die before we lose money in insurance?
So-
It's statistics, right?
Statistics, exactly. You know, so actuary, any interest in math, bring them in, we'll talk to them.
Well,
It's a great opportunity.
But with the actuarial department, there
I
is
don't know
there is a
specifics.
scholarship opportunity for a full ride.
Yes.
For one student a year through the actuarial science
And it's a
department.
very competitive process.
Yes.
We're looking for that well-rounded student, so
Yeah.
a graduate of an IB program, hands down, will be in the running.
Okay, so
Thank you for
so
that.
there's lots of really interesting opportunities out there. And I think it was very nice to bring in a truly because sometimes I get all excited about, you know, selling the IB program and then like I said, I'm paying for it this year, don't worry, with some of the kids. And like I said, and it's gonna be up to you as parents to really decide whether or not your kid is ready for it, because too, like I said, it's a level of maturity, I think, that is pretty strange for a high school kid to have. Like, it really is for a kid to say, well, I'm not gonna do something this weekend because I'm gonna read books all weekend long. Like, I wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
I wrote more, but in response to the audience, I learned that you have to keep working with your child, but the bottom line is going to be your child. You can kick them all the way you want, or however you want to get them there, but the self-motivation has to come from them. My son, he did what he needed to do for the 9th grade, and this year, and I think last year and this year, a bug went off in his head, and his last quarter, he was a 3.8. It didn't come from me. He sat there, did his homework, started studying, but I'm there saying, do you need any help? What you need? Hey, Mom, I need this in the middle of like, all right, why didn't you talk to me earlier? Going out and getting these things to help him achieve what he needs. Or, oh, I forgot my book. Like, really? Can we come back? But
Well,
it's all
let me
up to
let me
them.
throw something else out there for you. I want to tell you that I'm being very selfish right now. Okay, I'm saying that this is all for you guys. Let me tell you another problem that we have with IB. IB is set up on a very European sort of system. Our kids apply to school, all right, and they all know where they're going to school next year. So my Columbia student that got a full ride to Columbia, I have him in film class. He found out a couple months ago he got into Columbia. Guess what? He's done. Like, done, okay? Like, I'm buying them sandwiches to come to class and get stuff done, okay? So, if I have something to hold over them saying like, listen, knucklehead, you have to do this because you need that diploma to get sophomore status, my life is so much easier. So, yeah, it's for you, it's for your kids, but I benefit, I guess, a little bit as well, okay? And that's, like I said, that's what's sort of strange about IB. As well, is that, like I said, they don't find out until July whether or not they get the diploma. So, yeah, they could be accepted as Robert Morris and think they're going as a sophomore and find out, ooh, okay, never mind, freshman plus. So yeah, I'm gonna go here then here. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What course of study? What's your major course of focus of study?
I majored in business with a concentration in marketing. I'm in a master's program called organizational leadership right now, so I'm a continuing student. So yeah, Robert Morris is known as a business school, but please know we have engineering, we have nursing, we have actuary science, we have media arts, we have everything. So I know in Pittsburgh everyone thinks school of business, that's all they have. We have a lot more too, so.
Do they still have to take the entry test, or some colleges require them to take?
I believe we do. We would
For the
still
IB.
require ACT and SAT.
We're test optional.
To my knowledge.
So, and students who are test optional when they apply can still get scholarship money. As he said, IB testing is structured very differently than a lot of other standardized testing in the U.S. and standardized testing it's biased to certain demographics. Some students just don't test well when it's fill in the bubble. So we're test optional in general.
Even though they still have the backward diplomas,
Mhm,
they
yeah.
still gotta test it, and if they don't pass that test.
Which
If they don't pass the entry level test when y'all, pass the entry level test, do they start as a freshman?
Oh,
or-
I believe both places, they get credit, if they
Yeah.
get the IB credits, they get the Robert Morris credits. They don't
Right,
have to,
right.
yeah, there's not a.
There's
yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
second tier. If you
Yeah.
took this IB course, this is the course
Yeah,
that
it goes
will
to
give
the-
you credit for
Yeah.
that Robert
What does
Morris.
test optional mean?
It means that you don't have to submit ACT or SAT scores when you're applying to a college. It's kind of a growing trend that you'll see in a lot of schools. Usually it's smaller schools though, because bigger schools, it's a lot harder to manage that. But I think it's a nice option
Yeah,
to
and
have.
every year, like, part of my job is helping the kids with their college search. And it's really strange anymore, like, it really is. Like, the Temples, the Pitts, the Penn States and stuff like that, it's straight up numbers. Like, they could, it's SATs.
Right.
Because especially with No Child Left Behind, you have to understand, you're a bad teacher now if you give a kid a C.
Right.
So every kid has a 3.8. Yeah, every kid's a genius, okay? And then, they come to school and they can't read. So they're straight up SAT. I mean, they don't care. We've had kids with really, really high grades not make it into schools this year, last year, the year before, that 5 years ago, they would have been in hands down. It's just straight up SATs. Yeah.
Point Park's not here, but can you give them some
It's
props?
sophomore status as well at Point Park. It's basically the same deal. And like I said, they offer some very unique programs too. And like I said, why I think for Juniata for International Studies, Robert Morris for Business, and for the math stuff, I think they're very focused schools that, and Point Park, arts related and stuff like that, and also marketing and stuff, I think they're very specialized in that. They have a lot of other stuff as well. But I think all three schools are very good at what they do. So, I think there's a lot of unique opportunity there. And if your kid's just thinking of going to Pitt or Penn State or something like that, please look at these schools, because I really think that there's a definite benefit to it. I really do.